Welcome to the No Name Brand Podcast. My name is Sashka Hanarappal, actress, singer, dancer, turned brand marketing, sales, and advertising strategist who brands your soul. And each week I bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover your undergod, turn up your leadership notches, challenge the status quo, because you're fast and furious with a powerful message to share with the world. Thank you for taking time out with me today, and without further ado, let's get our creative and wisdom juices flowing. Yabba dabba do, folks, it's that time of the week again. I'm so stoked to have you on board this week, because joining me as I interview the world's movers and shakers who are fast and furious and changing the world one step at a time. Because you know, we need to change one step at a time, not like quickly. By the way, that includes you too. So if you haven't applied to be on the podcast and you feel called to, please click on the application form, brandsashka.com/podcast. And that's just what my next guest did. Jumped at the opportunity to be on today's show. And I am so stoked that she did. Our next guest came from a poor immigrant family with mental health disorders. She was told never to speak up for herself. She was shy, introverted, depressed, antisocial, and had absolutely no confidence. Now, how could such a personality help business owners in personal growth generate consistent 5-figure months in sales? But that she did, people. Yes! But it wasn't clear as daylight, and the heavens certainly didn't open up showing our next guest her path. Don't work like that, people. She was in Beijing, China, setting up a high-tech startup when she was called back home to the United States because her grandparents were really sick. Now, during the time of taking care of her grandparents and setting up her coaching practice, she realized something. Hang on a moment. I have an operating system, and this steers my thoughts to react to the world and keep me from everything I ever wanted in life. So what do you realize when you have the system? Booyah! You refine and rewire yourself for success, and that is what she's been doing consistently for over a decade. Since then, she has founded 3 international companies, and she's young, people. She's young. She's freaking gorgeous. A legendary Boston Business Women's Conference and a thriving coaching practice. And she's here with us today to share why she believes that it's your energy that creates outcomes for your life and not your branding or strategy. So put your hands together, folks, for the one, the only, Anna Tsui. I hope I pronounced that properly, Anna.
Perfect. It's perfect. That was the best introduction I think I've ever had. That was incredible. Thank you for your energy. That's amazing.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to speak to you today. There's so much information that I want to delve into. But and it's a pleasure about the introduction. I forgot to say it's a pleasure. Before we do, please share with us and the listeners where you are in the world today.
So you look up Anna Tsui, ANNATSUI.com, and I'm there. But I'm really active on Facebook. I have a free intuitive business school group that I just started. And so you can find me live there interacting with people. We do live coaching. We'll be doing some live coaching today, actually. So for anyone who's interested, please join me. And also I'm on Instagram as well.
Oh, awesome. And where are you in the world?
So I just recently moved to Houston, Texas, and it's been a big transition because I'm from the Northeast and now I'm down south, and it's very hot down here. But I have to say that the energy is very different, right? So everywhere you go, the energy is really different. The people is really different. And I can tell that it's already impacting my business in a different way. It's pulling it in a different direction, which is really interesting because we're influenced by all these things, right? And so in Boston, I had this kind of like big network and everyone was like in this really go, go, go place. And now that I'm here in Houston, it's more of like a nurturing energy. It's more of a birthing energy, like birthing new things. This is where the Intuitive Business School came from. And there's a different level of spirituality here. It's more prevalent. Whereas in the Northeast, it's more, logic-based. It's more academic-based, right? Here, it's more faith-based, which actually is a great foundation for me because intuitive work oftentimes is faith-based work because you have to kind of trust in your intuition, right? So it's a great change. And I suggest for anyone, please go to where you're pulled because Eckhart Tolle, who wrote A New Earth, He was pulled to the US for some reason and to North America. And then when he came here from the UK, the book just came out, he said. So go where you're pulled, because sometimes things are waiting to come out depending on the energy of the location.
Goosebumps. That is so interesting, because normally when you ask people, so, and they say that they've moved somewhere, they're just like, yeah, it's different. And I love how you've explained and how it's changing and evolving everything in your life and in your business and within yourself. And you've actually given me some ideas. I'm like, oh, something was just telling me something the other day. So maybe I should just go with the flow with that. Yeah, because the intuition, sometimes we just have to follow it. Just have to follow it. It's like the slightest nudge. And then you think, oh, no. But it means so much energy. Well, the intuition is sometimes I can see.
And it's almost never convenient, right? Sometimes it's great because it's convenient, but sometimes it makes you stop in the middle of your day and it's like, you're not doing the right things. You need to go take a break and go take a walk somewhere. And you're like, but I have 10 other things on my list to do. But it knows that, just like you said, the next steps, right? That's all intuition. So intuition doesn't give you like the whole picture, because we tend to really stress out. And so like the next step could be getting you to that nice little wooded area where you like to take a walk. And then basically you come up with an idea, or you actually even open up your energy enough to receive a call from someone that your energy was blocking before. Your intuition knows how to get you to that like higher frequency so that you can be a closer match to the goals that you want to create, right? I know everyone here is into health and wealth and abundance and connection, innovation. So it really is. If we take it seriously, we begin to live life differently. And trust me, like when I moved to Houston, I was not all about it. I was not really happy about it. My boyfriend and I actually packed up a van and we went straight from my aunt's house, where she was having a 4th of July party, to here. And everyone was crying. My mom was crying. And I was like, why am I here? Your Boston's so beautiful. But always, if we kind of tap in, like for me, I always could tell like this was like a right move. So if I shut down all my thoughts about it, I could always tell, okay, this is the right move. Let me see why. Let me live into it.
Oh, explain that some more. So when you shut down your thoughts, because I know our thoughts become things. I mean, I have it tattooed on my arm. Thoughts become things. So when you shut down your thoughts in meditation, or is this whilst you're awake, where you're like, oh, hang on, so your intuition becomes louder?
Yeah. So Sashka, that's a really important point and question, because in my experience, everyone is intuitive. And actually my last round of the Intuitive Business School, we had a medical intuitive who was also a business, like she had access to all of her clairs. So, she could hear, see, touch, feel everything. And so this is a person who's very open and really psychic. She also had a really strong mind. She had learned so much about coaching and marketing and all this stuff. It was almost like her level of education about her craft was actually influencing the things that she was doing, because instead of going with her, and she does actually go with her intuition, but sometimes she's like, well, I learned this from someone who is really good at marketing, right? And so I need to do it this way. And I learned this from someone who's really good at sales. And so I need to have my sales conversations this way. And she wasn't having the success that she wanted. And it was actually quieting down those voices and trusting that she already had an internal marketer and salesperson and business development. I call it your inner CEO, basically. So there's a part of you that not only wants you to have a thriving business, but actually also knows that you're meant to be on this earth to do great things. So it's not just like making money and working with your ideal clients, which is great, which is what a lot of us can only see. But our intuition also wants what's part of our life path. So it wants us to feel fulfilled. It wants us to have that impact and connection and build that legacy, and just to create that life that is rewarding for us, but also for others that we're meant to transform, because there are definitely specific people that are meant to work with us. And we're meant to also be light for certain other people too. It's just part of, it's part of the agreement. It's just part of being human. And so intuition holds all that, like a much bigger picture. And so we can surrender to it or listen to it. And in this case, my student, with her marketing, her sales calls, it's really common for people to kind of do what other people have done, what other successful people have done. And that I call as like head stuff. And so if we were to forget everything and just come from within and speak our essence, that's actually the most powerful thing, because people want to work specifically with us because of our unique energy and our unique qualities. And if like we have these thoughts that we need to be like someone else, or try and copy this template from someone else, a lot of coaches nowadays, like they sell templates and stuff. And actually I think templates are great, but you can't forget who you really are. You can't forget that essence. And at that moment, there's something that wants to come out that is really just pertinent for that moment. And so that's why it's really important to tune in, because intuition is so connected to your market. So if you're like, I don't know why, but I want to talk about birthing today and have some analogy around birthing and birthing your business, there's probably a reason for that. There's probably some other people on the other end who would really relate to that analogy right now. So that's what I mean by kind of almost turning off your thoughts and your education and your judgments of, no, this isn't perfect. I posted, actually, the majority of my clients I get from social media now because I moved. And I posted things that I couldn't sleep at night because they were so kind of raw and so kind of edgy and not really standard or typical for marketing. But those have always been the pieces that generate the most clients, actually, and the most interest for me. And so I know that if it's a little crazy, then probably it's the right thing. Remember, a little inconvenient, a little crazy, but probably the right thing.
I love that. So whilst you were talking about this client of yours, the medical with the marketing and the sales, and shutting down the thoughts or just quietening them a little bit, why do we study at all? Doctors, yes, okay. I mean, there's some certain things where I'm like, I don't know if you really need to study in terms of going to university. I don't know if that's just more discipline, or some things is more you learn more when you're in life. But why even have that? Why even have marketing or branding or coaching or the tactics or NLP or something to that effect? Why? When we have our intuition.
That's a really great question, because there's actually this whole movement now, and I've been in the startup world forever, and there's all like, we don't need college, save your money, put it in your startup, right? And that's a real thing. You can go on Amazon, I think it's look up like on some sort of like online MBA or something, where basically it's just a stack of books that if you read it, you got the equivalent of $100,000 MBA. But I'm all about, learning and studying all these things. And the part where I think the issue is sometimes we can take on other people's information and research, right? Which was probably relevant at the time. And we can take that and have that overpower our own genius. And so when you look at real geniuses, right, they break the mold. They come up with stuff that's just like, where did that come from? You didn't learn that from anywhere. And even for people who I think tend to stop themselves, especially women, actually, we stop ourselves because we're like, I don't have enough certification. I don't have enough letters behind my name. And so I'm not going to ask for this promotion, or I'm not going to try and do a business on my own because I'm not certified. And actually, that's a slippery slope, because I know a lot of people who are certified, but yet they're still not fully alive in their business because they're kind of like holding on to someone else's validation, which is certification. Like, I'm not prepared enough. But really, our intuition might tell us actually to get a certain type of certification, or go to a certain type of school to study something if it thinks it's important for us. And so my point is, the study is part of mastery of your craft. And then obviously to practice it and get the juices flowing, to meld your studies with your intuition, that really truly brings it alive. But I think the mistake that most people make is we rely on textbooks and like book learning more than our intuition, because some of the best doctors will tell you or even surgeons, they've interviewed surgeons, and like a lot of it is, yes, you study this, but you kind of have to go with your gut sometimes on what to do, because you have to make these like life-changing decisions. And so that's when you activate that inner genius. And so my feeling is, we have an inner genius, and don't ignore that because someone else taught you something that you mentally can understand, but it doesn't feel right at the moment. So I always go more with like feeling, because there's so many different variables. So I always go with feeling and what feels right, and then you can tap on your brain. So I know this woman who's a real estate investor, and she has a multi-7-figure business, I think even like an 8-figure portfolio. So she's been in it for a really long time, most of her life. And she told me, she's like, Anna, when I go into deals, or when she goes into looking at properties that she wants to invest in, or partnerships she wants to take part in, it's always intuitively led. So it's intuition first, and then she uses her learning and all of the legal stuff. Then she turns on her brain, and they go through the contracts, right? They go through all the agreements. But it's always intuition first. And that's how I like to think about it. Have your intuition be kind of the compass. And then when you need to, turn on your mind. But a lot of us, we have it the other way around, which is why a lot of us don't lead very satisfying lives, or we don't lead lives that are just kind of like giving us energy at every moment. In fact, it's probably draining us of energy.
That is so true. You like brought up all these things. I always use the analogy when I studied market. When you're an artist, you taught the tools of the trade, the brush stroke and everything. And you take that, and then the artist creates their own world, their own system, like you said. So they're using your intuition first, and then what they've used. Whereas marketers, they go and learn something and they always stay in that frame. They never make it their own. And it's always just mind, 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 mind. And for myself, when I was working in corporate, it was all male-led. And I was always using my intuition, but I didn't know it then. I didn't know I was using my intuition then. And I was always being put down because I go like, oh, that doesn't feel right. And they go, where are the facts? So every time I try to get into my business in the beginning, it would all be a thing of, there's no facts, until I created my own thing where it's like where you say, and what I mentioned in the beginning, where it's about your energy and not just the branding and the marketing that should stand in the foreground. Because I work with the life purpose first, independent of your vocation. Not the same, because they're all gorgeous elements that work together. That's first, and then comes the knowledge and everything afterwards. Why do you think this is just something to fall back on? Or is it just because of the world we live in? Because people ask me, so what background do you come from? And I'm going, oh, I was in entertainment, but I didn't know I was doing branding and marketing until I was taught that that's what it is, that's what it's called. But I was intuitively doing it. So that's pretty, I love that analogy. I love that whole thing of intuition first and then calling back.
And then turning on the head. Because like when you talk about soul marketing, right, your soul has a lot of information in it, but it's a really distinct energy. It's a really distinct piece. And so what have you found that for people who do like have a brand that's soul based, right? Versus people who just kind of like someone told them, okay, this is what you look good in and this is what you should do. And this is how you should do, your photos and your logos and all that stuff. What do you think the difference is?
Oh, it's huge. I was doing it for a friend. I was doing their website and they've got no branding and they're too many cooks spoil the broth. Everybody had an opinion and the business is just there for survival. And I'm sure everyone's seen this recently, but there's America's Got Talent and there was someone on stage and I think he's a teacher and he fosters 6 kids. And he was saying how when you're in the mode of survival, there's very little time to dream. There's no space to dream. And it's in the same thing as that when you're in a business just for survival, there's no dreams. There's nothing of you, of a soul. You're just like going do. And you're just in that masculine energy all the time. And when I'm creating then the soul branding or working with people that they might not even know that it's called the soul branding or whatever, or soul marketing, but they feel it within themselves. And then my life purpose will come in the foreground first and the marketing will come second. So I love the way that you put that it's not the focus first on the vocation, but rather on the purpose or the energy or the intuition first, because that'll lead you first before everything else. That's pretty.
Yes, that's so true. And that goes directly in alignment, specifically with people who own their own business owners, right? Our business is a unique entity. It's almost like a child. So actually a business, when it's formed, it has its own astrological chart. It has its own destiny. And I consulted my astrologer before I reestablished my LLC here in Houston. And because it has its own destiny, it already has its own connection to its unique clients, right? The people that are meant to work with you. And that's all part of, the soul energy. It's like part of your destiny. It's part of these people who need you and really want to work with you for whatever reason that is, right? There's something unique about you. There's something unique about my journey. What I do is it's not anything different or special than what any other coach does, right? But I do it in my way, which is why my clients will choose me and why someone else's clients will choose someone else. And so we're really alive in that soul frequency. And if someone finds someone like you who can help bring that out, because that's probably one of the most difficult things to do, is bring something as intangible as someone's like soul essence and life mission out to make it really visible for your ideal clients. What I find is sometimes, actually a lot of time, people adopt marketing that looks good, right? Everyone else is doing it. And sometimes just like overbearing thoughts, that's like a really loud energy that can kind of like keep your clients from really seeing you. There's actually a few coaches that I worked with that in the beginning, their marketing I didn't like it. It was almost too cheerful, too happy, right? And that was not the state that I was in. And then finally I got to the place where I could see it, and their marketing actually had changed too. So it's really important, I think, to look at how the energy that you're putting out there into the world, which is your marketing, and to see if it really is in alignment with, like you said, your mission and who you are. And is it really telling your true story? Or is it telling elements that you're trying to make you sound good? You're trying to tell because it sounds good. Because people really want the real thing. And actually, like, even when you read my biography about me, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like some heavy stuff right there. Your story is like your power, and I feel like a lot of people need to share that more.
And a lot of people don't know their story. I mean, let's put this into context. So you're in Beijing, you come back to the United States, you're with your grandparents, you're setting up your coaching practice, you've been doing it for a decade. So you've got the system that you've got. So how did you put it all into perspective and going to where you are now? I mean, in 5 years' time, it's going to be completely different. Not completely, but in just more empowered and more expansive to where it was when you started a decade ago. Like, where were the things then? Were you more focused on branding and marketing then? Were you more focused on, or less focused on inspired action? Or has it always been with you and it's just gotten more intense?
That's a great question. When I came back from doing my high-tech startup in Beijing, my focus was on my grandparents. They both have various types of stage 4 cancer. So my grandmother had lung cancer, and my grandfather actually ended up having cancer that went to his kidneys and livers, and that was the end of him. And so my focus was on taking care of them. And then coaching actually came out of that as a way for me to have time to take care of them. And also because I knew what I enjoyed doing was working with people and helping them become better. And then, of course, out of nowhere, someone was like, maybe you should do coaching, or I would like to hire you as a coach, right? And so this person actually worked at Bank of America, and she's like, I'm looking for a coach, and what you're describing is something that a coach does. So can I hire you as a coach? Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is, she actually never ended up hiring me as a coach. But it was that piece of insight that started me on the path of coaching. And so when I was doing coaching, I didn't have certification, and I actually still don't have coaching certification. What I do is, instead of going for the specific certification, I choose to study with people and just study in life things that naturally are interesting to me, that really give me energy. And I find that always helps in my practice. So sometimes, maybe it's for someone, it's like going to a yoga training, right? That absolutely has everything to do with your business, whatever your business is, because it helps you really show up, and there's concepts there that can help you, right, as you're helping people. So when I first started coaching, it was really esoteric. My company was actually called Little Red Boar, because when I got my final Reiki attunement, a little red pig, like a little red boar, came into my vision, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to call my business.
Oh, wow.
I don't think that was great marketing. The website was very, I made it myself, and it had a cloud on it. It was actually pretty bad. But here's the thing, because I was I think the most excited and the most turned on I've ever been, because it was my own business versus co-founding with someone else. And the thing that I really want to do, somehow an office manifested where someone was opening this beautiful space in downtown Boston, and I happened to get a segment of it. And so I had this beautiful office to come to. That's when I got most of my actually executive level clients. So clients who are running big companies, and a lot of them were high tech companies.
Wow.
And I'm like, wait, you found me on littleredboar.com and you still want to work with me? Okay. But it was just the energy was really alive. It was pure, it was esoteric. And so it was exactly what this person needed, right, at the time. It ended up just growing from there. And actually, when I think about it, that was one of the most pure points of my business. And then when I started getting into survival mode, and all of these things and the different phases of business, I was really guilty trying to implement a lot of these different funnels and Facebook ads and all this stuff. And actually, it didn't end up working well for me. And so now I'm just kind of back to what I know, and back to basics, and back to intuition. And that's actually never failed me. So the first year I worked really, really hard, and I made a little bit of money. And then the next year I worked even harder, and I hit 6 figures almost accidentally. And the next year after that, I was like, I'm not going to work as hard because it's causing me wrinkles. And I was able to make, the same, if not more money, actually with quote unquote less work, because it was just more in flow. I was having more time off than ever. I was having more fun than ever because I wasn't making myself feel guilty because I need to be busy. And so I'm just finding my way. So I'm so blessed to have a business, because I think a business, just like, having children, having a family, right? I think having a business, it really pulls you on this journey of personal growth and empowerment. And that's why I love being in your energy, Sashka, because you're living all of those things, and you can't not grow in that environment.
That's true. Although some entrepreneurs, they might have a lot of energy in that state of do, and they come into a state of burnout. And there's always the dark side of entrepreneurship. I just recorded a podcast today and wrote a blog about it, and just working with the energies and stuff over there, and just some pointers in light of what's happened with Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain and everything. Yeah. That we just don't speak about things like that with the whole burnout. Because like you mentioned before, in your business, and you have that survival moment. It's like, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And you're just in your head all the time. Why do you
Absolutely.
feel visionaries, leaders, high-powered type A's are prone to burnout? And how, or what are the signs, or what are the pinpointers or markings or whatever milestones to try and prevent it? Not try, but to prevent it. Not as
That's huge. Yeah. Actually, because like you're like also like very analytical and very like big thinkers, right? A lot of highly intelligent, highly analytical, and also type A people, it's like basically the magic sauce for anxiety. It really is. Because
All right, people, listen closely.
especially if we don't have that connection to our intuition and that connection to our heart. So, there are various centers where intelligence comes from. It's not just the head. And in the US and Western culture, it's all centered around the head, the head, the head. But actually in Chinese medicine, it's interesting because the brain is kind of just like an organ that's there. It's not like the main organ. It's just actually like the heart and the liver, like all of these other organs. It's like the heart has a big intelligence system. Heart math talks a lot about this, like just the wisdom of the heart and also the wisdom of our gut, our intuition. There's a lot of wisdom there. And there's also more of a connection to other people. Because if you think of the heart, right? When we choose not to connect with people, it's because we don't like them or they stress us out or these things like in the head or they did something wrong to me and I don't appreciate that or they don't understand me. It's all head stuff. But the heart just wants to connect. The heart just loves being with people. The heart just loves expressing love and receiving love. And so a lot of times when we have an overemphasis on logic and thinking and creating and like you said, that very masculine energy, do, so that I can prove myself, we miss that connection with the heart. And I went to this class on health in the Kabbalah, which is like a mystical, ancient Jewish text. And they said that depression only lives in the mind, it doesn't live in the body. And so
goosebumps.
I know, isn't that so interesting? So, and I had a huge bout of depression when I was in high school and college for a very long time. There were times when I was like really active and then I couldn't get out of I was just frozen. I couldn't do anything because your mind is so overtaxed with worry.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're able to kind of quiet the mind and go into the body, into the heart, the body just knows. The body knows what you need. The body has no judgments about like how your social media is compared to your friend's social media, right? Your body has no judgments. Your heart has no judgments about how much money is in your bank account or how many pounds you think you weigh, too much or too little. So because the mind is a monkey mind, it has like a force of its own. Very few people can say we have control over our thoughts or that our thoughts are our best friend. Think about that. Very people can say that like my mind is my friend. It's more like I need to take pills, at least here, I need to take pills to quiet the mind down, or I need to go do something to make it work better or more or faster or more productive. The heart is always our friend. Our gut, our intuition is always our friend. The mind is just a tool that many of us have not figured out how to be the captain of that ship. And when it goes haywire, it makes us believe in all of our fears. So actually in the intuitive business school, most of that school is dealing with people's fears that come up. Because our fears are the only things that stop us. We think it's money. We think it's like privilege. No, it's all fear. And so when we have all these fears that we're constantly churning in our mind, especially when we get stressed or actually when we make a lot of money, these things enhance those fears. So time, money, stress, it enhances everything that exists. So you think, oh man, they should have been fine because they have all this money and all this stuff. But actually money shows us like what's really going on. And so if you're, like just like an overall calm and peaceful person, I go with the flow, money just enhances that, right? And if you're really generous, money just enhances that. But if you're just kind of a nervous wreck and stingy person, no matter how much money you have, you'll always be stingy. You'll always be cheap. You always worry about something else. Some of the people who are like most anxious people, I think, are people I've met who are people who are very, very, very wealthy.
Very interesting. It's very interesting. So in order to prevent the burnout, it's just quietening the mind. There was an interview, and for the life of me, I think it was Jason Gaynard, I can't remember, Masterminds, and it was with someone that teaches, he was taught how the brain works, because we're not taught how the brain works. And it was so interesting, and you were mentioning that now. So it's like just by quietening the mind and heightening the intuition, you can very simply, because it's very simple, prevent burnout, basically.
Yes. Absolutely. There's actually great research in the UK, done in the UK by Human Givens. And it's called, Human Givens. And I love reading about depression and anxiety. It's like one of my favorite things. I don't know why. It's just like, because I know that our shadow gives birth to light. And so I've always been one of those people that are not afraid to take other people and my clients or whoever into their shadow, because it's not that scary, first of all. And second of all, it gives birth to your next level of genius, your next level of expression. And Human Givens talks a lot about the reason for depression and anxiety. And they did a lot of cognitive brain research on it. And so just paraphrasing what the research was, our mind wants to close loops. So for example, if I have a thought, oh, I didn't take out the trash today, my mind wants to actually close that loop and go out and take out the trash. So, okay, that's done. That action's done, right? And then at night, when we go to sleep, that's when we have dreams that actually close the loop. So I might have a dream that night about taking out the trash. I don't know why. It's just our mind's way of reconciling, right?
Oh,
and so what we found is with people who worry a lot, so raise your hand, everyone, if you're a worrier, right? Worry about everything. Worry about like what you're wearing, worry about your mom, worry about the weather, worried about the political climate, worry about the money, worry about your clients. So people who are worriers, which most people are, right? But people who are severe worriers, who just tend to worry a lot, what happens is we open up a lot of those doors, those incomplete actions, like, oh, my mom's getting older. And then your mind's like, wait, where do I go with that? I can't close that loop. And so what happens is at night, they basically took a scan of worriers and non-worriers and how they sleep. And it's so interesting. I don't have the exact numbers from the research, but basically they found that people who worry a lot at night, their brain is basically, the electrical circuits are on fire. It's just like rapid, like trying to close all these loops, trying to reconcile all these things, trying to like calm the head down. Basically, they talked about kind of clearing the waste so that they can have a fresh mind for the next morning. But what happens is, so a normal person, we have dreams, we go into deep REM sleep, and then the mind is like clear, and then you wake up refreshed, right, for the most part. And then for warriors, what happens is they spend so much energy at night in that process, sometimes almost double the energy, that they wake up and they have no mental juice left. And that's why when people are depressed, they're like, the smallest step is almost, it's scary for them, because they're like, wow, I need to get up, and then I need to put on my pants, and then I need to put on my socks, and then I need to, and everything becomes overwhelming because our brain reserves are already really depleted. And so it just doesn't lead to it doesn't lead to high mental functioning. And when you take that and you multiply it by days and weeks and years and decades, it has a huge toll on how we can really be in the world. So I recommend looking into that research. But I also recommend, I took from that a really serious thing, which is worry is no bueno. And so basically for like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, I decided I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to worry about anything. And it took about a year and a half for me to really feel like, wow, I have this worrying under control. And it's absolutely, I haven't had a depression bout or anything like that since then. So it's been incredible. Just lowering the worrying by 5%, if you can lower your worrying by 5% every day, I think that'll do magic for you.
I mean, it's like Mike Dooley says, thoughts become things, and all those thoughts are happening in our minds. And when you can shift the thought to a good habit rather than the bad habit, changes everything. And what you expand on, what you focus on expands. So it's just fascinating. I just love it. I just love it. All these things.
And your energy clears up. The universe is like, oh, now we know what she wants, because she's not saying she wants this, but then she's worrying that she can't get it, right? Like, I want a great relationship with my family, but I'm worried about them, and I feel guilty. Maybe I should move back and be with them. And you're sending out all these mixed signals, right? Think about it just energetically. But then when you don't have the worry, it's like you just have that pure, natural, like super high frequency desire. Oh, I just want a closer relationship with my family. And that was part of one of my goals. And even like halfway across the country, now I feel like I have a better relationship with them than I ever have. It's not a distance thing, right? It's just when I could let go of the guilt and all that stuff, I realized, oh, I really care about them. In the times that we do interact, they've been really great versus before when they were not so great.
Isn't that amazing? I love it. Anna, we're coming near the end. It's just too fast. I would love to know from you, I ask all my guests, how do you want to change the world or challenge the world doing what you do? Now, whilst we were speaking about all this mind stuff and energy and everything, I would love to know how you would like to change or challenge the world doing what you do.
That's such a deep question. I love that. I think besides energy, energetic leadership. I think you lead with your energy first, and then everything else, all your actions and behavior comes after that. But I think really what I love doing and what I really want to help people see, and hopefully this changes the world, is having people know that their shadow, their wounding, their shadow, the parts of them that don't feel great, that feel depressed, or that feel insecure compared to other people, that's actually our greatest gift, because our fears, our doubts are signaling what we need to be whole. So actually, this is really interesting. So this feather, it's like half black, half white, this little hawk feather.
Wow.
It's just us, right? This is we're a beautiful being that's shadow and light. And I think the more that we can be in touch with those darker elements of us, we're able to our intuition will actually guide us to heal it. So a lot of times if we have a certain fear or fears keeping us from doing something, it's a great time to just kind of take a breath and talk ourselves through, like, why am I so scared? What am I afraid of? And that actually leads us to really big insight. And at the end of the day, generally speaking, it leads us to more love for ourselves. And more love for ourselves actually allows our energy to fill up, because we're not kind of acting from our wounding. So if you've seen times where people are just kind of like irrational and they're kind of off and unbalanced, it's because they're acting from their wounding. They haven't gone into that shadow part of themselves and said, I love and accept myself no matter what, right? And taking that time to really love and heal themselves. And when we do, we're not acting from wounding, we're actually just pure inspiration at that point, because the way that we walk in the world is just pure compassion, pure love. And we could just be at the cafe getting a coffee, but our energy will actually change that room. And I know there are a lot of people who say focus on the positive and then that will happen. But I'm one that says actually like focus a little bit on this, like the fear and the negative stuff that's coming up, so that you can fill in all those wounds and heal all those wounds, so that you can just be you. And that is actually really like world changing if everyone was just them, but like this like healthy version of them, acting from just their heart and their intuition versus their wounding, trying to prove something or have a competition with someone. I think that's actually what would make the world like a much better place.
I love that, because so often, so many people go, oh, just be yourself. We don't know who we are.
Yeah, you're right.
We're told to always be somebody else. So that is so beautiful. I'm actually going to ask the universe to send me a black and white feather now, because when you know what your shadows are and the fears are, you get to know who you are through that.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. Beautiful. I'm goosebumps from head to toe. I'm like,
me too.
If you can fill in the blanks on I've got tears in my eyes, 3 of my values, what they mean to you. Creativity for you is?
Creativity is basically the whole point of having a business. Our business is a divine expression of our creativity.
I like that. Yeah. Wisdom for you is?
Oh, wisdom is our lineage. So our ancestors, earth ancestors, soul family. Wisdom is all around us, and we're always connected in our intuition to wisdom.
Oh, I'm just goosebumps. Passion for you is?
Passion. For me, passion is just flow, but with a lot of electricity behind it. So flow and desire. So when you're in flow, you're kind of like, you're just kind of magically doing things. But if you're in flow doing something that you love doing, I think that's passion. Like, I can't wait to do this. I love working with people. I love talking to people about their shadow. And then you become really passionate.
I love that. And with electricity, I love that description as well, because that is so true. You're like on fire. It's like you're electrified. Anna, thank you so much for being with us here today. It was such a pleasure getting to meet you and getting to know you, and just a glimpse into your soul as well, and a little bit about you. Our listeners can find out more about you in the show notes. They can find you on social media, your favorite book quote, a free gift from you, and just get to know you some more, and if there's any questions, just get in touch with Anna. She's beautiful. She's absolutely beautiful. And it's been such a pleasure getting to know her. Thank you, universe. All right, folks, I'll see you again next week.
This is such an honor. So thank you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you so much, Anna. That's so lovely. Look at the internet cut out there, guys. So that's why we got a little bit cross-eyed. So thank you very much, listeners. I'll see you again next week. Or I'll listen to you again next week. Yeah, bye-bye. And if you have any questions, just keep sending them through. I love answering them. I love keeping in contact. And we'll see each other next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dang, that was just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I enjoyed having you on board, and please do me and you a favor. Head on over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Click subscribe, and a super bonus, leave your review and you stand a chance of being announced and advertised on the show. I'm always striving to ensure that your brand is uplifted and empowered. Remember, done is better than perfect. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and send in your feedback too. You're the absolute best. Keep rocking.